you know. And then they will only take 3% in seller contribution. So if you have a client that needs 6% or 5%, you have to go somewhere else. They can't do it. It has to be no more than 3%. And you'll do that when you submit your bid. If you forgot to put that in there and they accept your bid as is, cancel it. Go ahead and cancel it. Tell them, oh, we forgot to put the seller contribution in, and they'll say, okay, no problem. Cancel. They'll cancel it. It'll go back active, and then you can resubmit the correct way. Don't try to say, oh, okay, that's fine, and then try to squeeze it in there in the sales contract. They'll catch it, red flag it, and say, nope, this isn't the right way, and they'll cancel it anyway. So make sure you put that in there. It says on there, HUD will pay customary seller closing costs. That does not include the title policy. So if your client wants the title policy paid for, make sure you include that. If they need 3% and then still want the title policy, that's it. 3% is max. So if they still want the title policy paid for by the seller, that's it. That 3% can go wherever they need it to go. If they need it to go towards the repair escrow, it'll go towards there. If they need it towards the title policy, it'll go there. Doesn't matter. 3% is the max that HUD will allow in seller contribution. And it will pop back a little message that says, sorry, we can't exceed 3%. So that in case you forget, well, was it 4? No, it's 3. It'll tell you. And I'm not exactly sure why they deemed 3%, but that's what it's always been for the whole year. Excuse me. So once your bid is submitted to HUD, they'll review it. They'll let you know their response unless someone else's bid came in and they accepted theirs, you won't hear back. Another helpful hint, if your client really, really, really wants this house and you know that they would do anything for this house, or if they even tell you, hey, I really want this house, make sure it's a backup offer. Check the backup, may use as backup offer, so that if that first contract falls out, it's not going to be relisted and then you have to resubmit. It'll get canceled and it'll go to you next, or whoever's next in line. However many bids they got, if they got 20 bids on the first day and all of them were acceptable, so they took the first one, and all of them checked backup offer, well, just depends. It'll go to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, until someone says, no, we don't want it. Then they'll cancel it out, send it back to us, we'll relist it, and it'll go back active. So if you know your client would want it either way, even if someone else got it, they would want it as a backup offer, check that box so that you don't have to resubmit it again. It's really, really helpful, and it'll save you some time. They may counter you on that. I don't know how they do that, but they may counter you. If so, it's still easier than having to wait till it's back active, go back in and bid against 20 million other people to try to get that bid back in. So once you've submitted your bid, Home Telos will contact you. If it's a Home Telos property, there are 3 managing companies, PEMCO, Matt Martin, and Home Telos. We represent Home Telos. So some of this stuff that I'm going to go over in a little bit is going to be very different from Matt Martin and PEMCO, and that's just because we're different from them. Home Telos is its own managing company. I can't tell you which property is managed by who unless I know that it's ours. But you can tell on the HUD Home Store. It'll tell you who the managing company is, who it's listed by, whatever. But their earnest money policy is very different than ours, and so are the closing date times. So it's just one of those things. I'm telling you about Home Telos. I don't know positively what PEMCO and Matt Martin are, so I don't want to tell you the wrong information. You'll just have to look up on HUDHomestore.com and it'll tell you. Or you can go to Matt Martin or PEMCO's websites and it'll tell you there as well. Their instructions are very, very easy to read, and it'll go over their specific rules compared to Home Telos. But Home Telos will contact you if it's a Home Telos property, say congratulations, your bid was accepted. And once that is done, something that's really unique about Home Telos and really, really helpful is their website, hometelosfirst.com. And actually you can go there and look at properties too, and it'll pull up every HUD home It's just easier if you want to submit your bid to go through HUDhomestore.com, because this website will transfer you to that website. This is kind of a middleman if you're looking for a property. It's easier to just go there. But HomeTellosFirst.com, they have a fillable contract, so you can do it all online. You don't have to manually do it with a blue ink pen. What it does, you have to re-register. They're not linked websites. They're totally different websites. They're managed by 2 different companies. So if you've registered at HUD Home Store but you haven't registered here, you have to re-register. It's just one of those things, but it takes, same amount of time. Very easy. Once you're registered, if you have your email, it'll tell you the confirmation number that your bid was accepted. You'll put in your confirmation number and it'll pull up all of the sales contract, all of the addenda that you need, and it will auto-populate everything for you. All you have to do is put in your purchaser's name, their legal name, and it'll automatically do it for you. It's very, very helpful. With that being said, make sure it's correct. If they're gypping you on your commission, I'll tell you an easy way to do it. When you print it out, scratch it out with a blue ink pen, blue ink only, 1 line, write the correct amount above it, have everybody initial it. We had that happen recently, within the last 2 weeks. Sometimes their fillable contract is a little goofy and it'll fill in the wrong thing. So just make sure it's all correct. And we should have done that. We just didn't. We trusted the website way too much. Our mistake, So we've learned to deal with it, but just make sure everything is correct. If you misspelled their name, go back and fix it, because they will make you fill out an addendum or an amendment to the contract saying, we're changing the name from John Smith to Smith John, whatever. So if you've filled it out incorrectly, you will have to do an amendment, and that takes forever and it could delay closing. So you don't want to do that. Just make sure everything is filled out correctly the first time so you don't have to worry about it later. Because every time you have to send these in, it's what, $30 a pop to overnight it to Home Telos? And yes, you do have to overnight it. I wouldn't trust doing U.S. mail because it's not guaranteed overnight, and you have to have it there by 3 p.m., not 5 p.m., because if it's there after 3, it's canceled. So make sure you're sending it overnight, whoever you want to use, UPS, FedEx. Just make sure it's guaranteed overnight mail, whoever you want to use. Sure.
Did you receive fax?
I'm sorry?
Did you receive fax?
You can do faxes, but not with the sales contract. They have to have all originals, and all originals have to be in blue ink. Unless you've printed it out, then it can be in black. But if you've written something or someone has signed something, make sure it's in blue ink. They will tell you if they'll accept a fax, but generally speaking, no. It has to be, it's usually, if they'll take a fax, it's usually something really, really minor, like the utility activation form, with nothing really major to the contract. If it's part of the contract, it has to be originals.
Will they take electronic forms?
No, must be blue ink, handwritten signatures. And your broker must sign off on it, whoever your designated broker is. If your broker is out of town for whatever reason, they're not going to excuse it. You make sure your broker has someone in place that is designated that they are allowed to sign for them. We have that in place because I know Sam travels a lot, and I'm usually here if he's not, so I'm designated as the next person to be able to sign. But make sure that's established. Make sure you have paperwork explaining that whoever it is allowed to sign for your broker, and send that with it just as a precaution, because they will kick it back. And this is Home Telos' address. Let me take this down so you can see it. That's Home Telos' address, in case you get confused. I get that question a lot too. It's in the email. It doesn't say mail to here. It just has the address, but that's where you're going to mail it to if it's a Home Telos property. And what you're sending with that sales contract is earnest money, not copies, lender letter with all of the correct information, your client's name, the lender's name, the price that they're eligible for, everything like that. if it's cash, proof of funds, and excuse me. Let me cover the earnest money. Earnest money, no matter, this is just for home telos again, not for everybody else, just home telos. If the property is $50,000 or below, $50,000 or below, $500 must be made payable to HUD. No one else. HUD, not home telos, HUD. If it's $50,001 or above, it's $1,000. Doesn't matter if it's a $500,000 property, it's $1,000. Made payable to HUD. Certified funds, made payable to HUD. No cash, no personal checks. Make sure it's with that contract package. They will kick it back if it's not. So I've kind of gone over the main things. Another issue, or another thing that I really want to point out to you, and I'll go back to this website so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me go back. This right here, where I've highlighted, says UI, or uninsured in parentheses. There are three things that you'll see there. Right here. UI. You'll see either UI, I, or IE. IE is insured with escrow. I is insured. UI is uninsured. Now, if it says UI, it does not necessarily mean that it cannot be insured. It just means that it can't go FHA. So that's really what that means. And I know it's confusing, but that's why it says FHA financing UI, or IE or I. If it's IE, I think it's here on the.
So that's basically investors or conventional.
Really cash, because it's hard to find a conventional lender that will do some of these. Okay, I'm not going to open it, but this PCS, which is the property condition summary right here, that will tell you if there's an escrow. It'll tell you how much it's for, what it's for, and everything else you need to know. If there was an issue, they will tell you there. The PCR is kind of just an explanation of what's wrong with the property. What they know is wrong doesn't necessarily mean that it's still wrong or was ever wrong or is everything that's wrong, but it's listed there from what they know. But the insurable with escrow means that you can do 203K financing. If your client is going to do cash no matter what and it's insurable with escrow, they don't have to worry about the escrow. But if they're doing FHA, they have to do that escrow, and that escrow amount is deemed whatever HUD has deemed it, the appraiser really. And whatever that amount is, they have to come up with that additional money at closing, and they have to set it aside in an escrow account, and that has to go towards the repairs. If those repairs exceed that amount, I think you can go over it, but if they don't meet it, I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if you get that money back or what happens with that money, but I know that if it exceeds it, I think you have to get extra references. And I know there was one lender, one of the agents in our office talked to me about it. Their lender required a contractor to go out there and make sure that those repairs that HUD said needed to be done in that repair escrow were going to only be that amount. Well, that's an issue because a new AC, for generally speaking, is more than $2,500. Well, if the AC is missing, they'll usually only put $500 or $1,000. And that's because the appraiser has gone out there and said, oh, well, it was a 20-year-old AC. So a 20-year-old AC is worth only about $500.
Depreciated.
Right. So they're going on the depreciated value, not a brand new. Well, who's going to buy a 20-year-old AC where? So be careful with that. If you know your lender's going to make them get a contractor to go out there and bid the work, I don't know. I know that we have someone in our office with that problem right now. I'm like, I don't know. I've never heard that come up before, but I think if you need to put more in the repair escrow amount, I guess talk to HUD or Home Telos. I really don't know how to handle that. Help resources and websites, HUDhomestore.com and HomeTelosFirst.com, or you can call them. They're very helpful. HUD is not open on the weekends, and just about any bank or government holiday, they're not open. So just keep that in mind. If it's 4:55 on Friday afternoon, good luck trying to reach someone. They're supposed to be open till 5, but I know that that's tricky sometimes. Yes?